appreciate your patience, and we'll be starting the webinar soon. Thank you. Hi everyone, this is Abra from CLPHA. Thanks so much for joining us for today's webinar. We are just giving folks just another minute or so to get connected, so we really appreciate your patience, and we'll get started shortly. Thank you. Hi, this is Abra from CLPHA. So I think some folks are still joining, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Want to be respectful of everyone's time. So very excited about the webinar that we have today. Just a couple housekeeping logistics. I know this is our first official webinar of the year. So again, appreciate you joining us. If you have not used this webinar platform before, basically everyone is automatically on mute just to help minimize any background noise. Or if you want to be typing and taking notes at the same time. So if you do have any questions, you can go ahead and type them in the public chat box, which is the bottom right hand of your screen. This is also where you can put any questions that you have for the presenters. We'll be leaving those questions till the end. There are 3 presentations that are happening today. We're going to make sure to leave time for those questions, and you can type them at any time that you think of them, but just know that we'll be waiting until the end to answer them. If you're having any logistical issues, you can also feel free to send me an email. I can be reached at abra@clpha.org, or you can send me a chat as well by clicking next to the CLPHA webinar name and sending me a private chat if you'd prefer. So I think the other main things to note, as always, we are recording today's webinar. That recording will be available in about 24 hours on www.housingiS.org. I'll also try to send out an email to all of you letting you know where that exact link is. But that's where we also keep our past recordings if you're looking for those as well. I think that's about it. I just also want to do a quick reminder. Hopefully you all got the email that the 2020 Housing is Summit will this year be held on April 30th and May 1st. That's a Thursday and Friday, and it will be in DC. So we'll be opening registration, I think, by the end of this month. So stay tuned for that, but hope that all of you can join us. Great. So I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our presenters for today. Very excited. We'll be talking about reducing barriers to educational success with an organization that some of you may already be familiar with. called Urban Strategies, Inc. And I'm going to turn it over to Tyranda, who will introduce herself further.
I am Tyranda Mentor, Vice President for Educational Initiatives for Urban Strategies, Inc. And I would like to thank the Council of Large Public Housing Authorities for having us as a presenter today. I'd also like to thank all of you who are joining us on this call. I hope that you will be in for a treat. Just a little bit about who we are. Urban Strategies, Inc. was founded in 1978. We've been in existence for over 40 years with experience nationwide. We are a national nonprofit that uses housing as a platform for neighborhood transformation and human capital development. And this is accomplished through creating holistic mixed-income communities in partnership with developers, leveraging partnerships to improve community outcomes for children and adults, providing case management and service coordination to families who are impacted by community revitalization, convening stakeholders to ensure inclusive participation in community change, and basically using our social, moral, intellectual, reputational, and financial capital to advance community asset building. We serve 30,000 children and families who are at the center of our work. Children and families receiving assisted housing, including seniors that are housed in 11 communities across the country. Our home office is located in St. Louis, Missouri. And as an organization, we value integrity, accountability, respect, innovation, diversity, inclusion, equity, teamwork, and collaboration. We honor the resilience and self-determination of individuals who have suffered through trauma and harm. And we commit in our work to addressing disparities at many levels, including individual, community, institutional, and structural levels. In 17 communities across the country, we actually work in partnership with educational systems to make change at all of these levels. We appreciate that local residents know their communities best, and we target strategies based on data that addresses the root cause of preventing successful outcomes. I'd like to invite you to visit our website to learn more about the places and neighborhoods across the country where we work. At the top of this iceberg, which is a definition of the core of our work, you will see the pillars under which we support families, housing, health, workforce development, and education. And ensuring that our families have stable housing is the foundation of our work. We work with them to mitigate their risk of losing their housing assistance. We help them to ensure that they can make rental payments on time, for example. And once a family is stable and we help them to focus on accessing health and wellness services, economic mobility opportunities, and educational resources to help them to thrive. We use technology. We have a technology-based case management system that we use to monitor the progress that our families are making. And we actually work with family systems through intense community-based case management and service coordination so that all our families are stable and thriving. What this iceberg is demonstrating here is that at Urban Strategies, Inc., we use a systems thinking approach to advance our work. We ask how various elements within a system influence one another. So rather than reacting to individual problems that arise, we ask about relationships to other activities within the system. We look for patterns over time and we seek root causes. So to better explain, we use this iceberg model with our partners and stakeholders. We know that an iceberg, for example, has only 10% of its total mass above the water, while 90% is underwater. But that 90% is what the ocean currents act on and what creates the iceberg's behavior at its tip. The challenges our families and children face in communities can be viewed in this same way. The event level is the level at which we typically perceive the world, while problems observed at the event level can often be addressed with a simple readjustment. The iceberg model pushes us to not assume that every issue can be solved by simply treating the symptom or adjusting at the event level. For example, if we perceive chronic absence at the event level, we would think that one program or one action, like knocking on a child's door to wake them up to get ready for school, is the solution. The iceberg pushes us not to assume that one thing is the problem and one solution is the answer. If we look just below that event level, we would likely notice patterns that are happening that are keeping a student out of school. And then below the pattern level lies the structure level. Here we ask, what is causing the pattern we are observing? The answer is usually some kind of structure. Below that, mental models are represented, and they demonstrate the attitudes, the beliefs, the morals, the expectations, and values that allow structures to continue functioning as they are. And these are the beliefs that we often learn subconsciously from our society or family and are likely to be unaware of. At Urban Strategies, we take an iceberg approach to advancing our strategies and doing our work. So today we are focusing on our education pillar. You're going to hear two case studies about our work with youth who are moving along this pathway to educational success. And our pathway includes building high alignment and high action partnerships with community organizations so that we can seamlessly connect these organizations with the children and families we serve who need their educational resources and assistance in order to thrive. The slide you see before you shows some of the service connections we make for children and families. And the dark spots along the pathway represent the mental models that we address as we advance our equity agenda. You'll also notice that the pathway is not straight. These are some of the tactics we use to close the educational success gap in our communities. We focus on early learning, K through 12, graduation, college, and career, adult education, which is not shown here, and also policy change. This slide shows our national goals, indicators, strategies, and performance measures. However, the actions that our staff take to advance our national strategies are implemented locally, and they are customized to build on the strength and diversity of local communities. We call these local community tactics. So I invite you to visit our website to see more details about the outcomes we have been able to achieve across the country. Each of the case studies you will hear about today will show outcomes that we have achieved, but even more, as we collect data for tracking and measuring purpose, we also monitor the outcomes and process to inform the decisions that we make and help us to better understand lessons learned. In every community where we work, we hire people who live, work, and play in the communities that we serve. So the first voice you're going to hear today is that of Alana Dahlberg. She is the program manager at one of our sites in Minneapolis, and it is one of our human capital development sites. She will be followed by our education specialist, Liz Arevalo, who leads our education work in San Antonio. I'm going to turn it over to Alana.
Thank you all for having me today, and thank you, Tyranda, for the introduction. Like she mentioned, I am the project manager, the site lead here in Minneapolis in the Heritage Park neighborhood. Urban Strategies began working in the Heritage Park neighborhood about 18 years ago. We were called upon by the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority to help relocate a little under 400 families that had been forced to leave a set of housing developments as a result of a court settlement back in the late 90s. And after relocating those families, Urban Strategies stayed on site to provide support to the newly developed Heritage Park apartments. And so the first few years we spent building relationships with partners and stakeholders and getting to know the community's need. And then in 2008, we transitioned into a sustainability site, supporting the housing stability and working within those 5 pillars of urban strategies works to support the 440 families in Heritage Park apartments. We completed a needs assessment every 2 years with the community. And back in 2010, the top 2 priorities that were identified by the community were out of school time opportunities for the over 550 school-age youth in the community, as well as food security for the neighborhood that was a designated food desert at the time. And so from that, we worked with a number of community partners to start cooking and gardening and nutrition classes for youth and their families in the neighborhood. And from that, a youth social enterprise was developed called Green Garden Bakery. So Green Garden Bakery is a youth social enterprise that's a program of urban strategies that was started by and for the youth in the Heritage Park neighborhood. Their mission is that young entrepreneurs of color from North Minneapolis who are driven by a passion to change the world one healthy and delicious baked good at a time. And so this program grew out of our cooking and gardening programming in the neighborhood. And the youth grow vegetables in their garden. They bake them into vegetable-based desserts. They package them using sustainable packaging, compostable boxes, seed paper, business cards, and then they sell them for a pay-what-you-can amount at the farmers markets and pop-up sales, as well as now they've expanded to online orders as well. And then they donate a third of their proceeds back into their own neighborhood. So as I mentioned before, Green Garden Bakery started as a cooking and gardening class in the neighborhood in 2010. In 2014 is when Green Garden Bakery was founded. So a group of the youth who had been participating for a number of years, one of their peers was in a car accident and paralyzed, and they wanted to do something to support her. And they had just learned a new recipe that used green tomatoes from their garden. And so they decided to use their cooking skills that they had learned and sell those green tomato cakes at a local festival. And they were able to make $1,500 in profits in one day. For a bunch of middle schoolers, they thought they were rich. And so they wanted to continue to formalize their business and have more sales. And so Urban Strategies has built a framework of youth out of school time programming around that. That's led by a group of teens in the neighborhood who all have executive positions within the bakery. In 2017, they were able to launch weekly sales of their desserts, and they also won a statewide entrepreneurship competition with a seed prize money of $11,000. And Urban Strategies at that time also piloted a workforce training program that helped funnel younger kids who are interested in being a part of the business in a more formal way, where they would receive certifications and things like that. And then over the last year, they've actually been able to secure funding for a commercial kitchen and walk-in bakery that'll be opening winter 2020. I mentioned previously that 1/3 of the profits are donated back into the community. This is something that makes this social enterprise really unique. So the revenue that Green Garden Bakery creates, 1/3 of it is divided evenly to compensate the youth who are participating in the program. 1/3 of it is reinvested into the business. And then on a quarterly basis, the youth identify different needs within the Heritage Park community that they want to support, and they donate 1/3 of their profits into those community needs. That started off in 2014 with helping their friend Amaria, who was paralyzed, by getting a voice-to-text system for her in school. She's now a sophomore with a full ride at Augsburg University, a local university. And some of the other things that they have done have been getting security systems for families that have been victims of home invasions. They provided seed money for a startup production company of young adults in the neighborhood. And most recently, they have supported a mother in the neighborhood who has opened her own sambusa restaurant. So this is just illustrates currently what Green Garden Bakery's product line. They have six desserts, and then they also offer seasonal desserts based on what's available in the garden. Additionally, they now do birthday cakes and wedding cakes, and they've expanded a merchandise line to incorporate some of those that are more interested in the art and design side of things more than baking. So they have a line of jewelry as well as a t-shirt line as well. Green Garden Bakery's program structure is supported by Urban Strategy's national leadership team as well as a local site-based staff here in Minneapolis. And then the whole program structure is supported by the youth leaders that are working with a group of adult business advisors as well. And so children as young as kindergarten can get involved with the youth development portion of the program that focuses on skill building, knowledge gaining, as well as social emotional learning. And as students reach 7th grade, they can join a workforce training program to get more technical skills. And then they're able, once they graduate, to gain employment through one of the crews in the business. This is just another slide that kind of illustrates how family members, entire family units can move throughout the system of Green Garden Bakery. So you can start as young as kindergarten, and you can graduate as a senior in high school, and then join the alumni board. Also, if you choose to not have employment during high school, you can still receive additional support. We have a college and career mentoring program, as well as a teen group that focuses on other barrier removals to education, as well as housing stability for their family, and other community engagement as well. We had mentioned before that Green Garden Bakery focuses on skill development, especially for those that join the workforce training program or crew. And these are some of the areas of content that the students will receive. So we focus on work readiness as well as leadership for all of our students. And then you can join after getting a fundamental level of culinary entrepreneurship, marketing, and sustainability. You can join a track to gain more specialized skills. And then as a youth leader, you also receive executive skills. And then all high school students also work on what we call the unstoppable skill development, which is working really focused on college and career readiness. So that is one of the main outcomes we're looking for, is that our students are graduating on time and that they're college career ready. And so all of this is really unique in the fact that this curriculum and also the outcomes we're looking at has been really identified by the youth in terms of what skills they would like to gain. As you can see at the top, all of the titles have been named by teens in the program as well. So Green Garden Bakery is having an impact both really closely here in Heritage Park, but also beyond the neighborhood as well. So here in the neighborhood, it's creating jobs for youth of color and a space to cultivate possibility. The number of opportunities that students have gotten through this program is really a testimony to what they've been able to create. The community has benefited through reinvestment. Just this last year, over $9,000 was reinvested in the community through Green Garden Bakery, and it's also increasing food access and security through both fresh garden produce, but also some of the advocacy and policy work that Green Garden Bakery youth are doing in the larger food system within the Twin Cities. And for customers, they're benefiting by locally sourced healthy options and a product that really has a large social impact. And again, Green Garden Bakery follows a number of environmentally conscious practices. So they're making sure that they are having a environmentally conscious business as well. So really what we're working on is cultivating education through this youth social enterprise by being able to connect academics with real world business experiences. Green Garden Bakery is creating a lot of hands-on experiences for youth to learn who maybe have not been successful in traditional education so far. And it's been able to connect back to those educations by being able to have them identify passions that they might not have been exposed to. Youth leaders have also identified and created their own kind of code of conduct that both involves their work here, but also expectations around school attendance and academic performance. And then this last year, we were able to work with a local partner to launch a college and career mentorship program. So each of our high school students is paired with a one-on-one college and career mentor. And as you can see here, we've been able to increase our high school graduations just in the last 2 years of Heritage Park residents from 80% to 100%. In terms of upcoming plans, the youth leaders will be presenting at a Choice Means Choice national convening in New Orleans this November. They will be working around with other youth from Choice neighborhood sites around youth social enterprise and entrepreneurship, as well as community organizing. As mentioned before, they're going to be opening their commercial kitchen in the winter of 2020. And with that, they hope to be able to continue to increase their revenue through expanding catering and wholesale. And then one goal that Urban Strategies has is to really put some more focus on in terms of wealth building initiatives and financial literacy for the youth, and something that they really have voiced is wanting to work on seeking matches for the dollars that they reinvest in the community, getting a match to also create college savings accounts for them and other youth in the neighborhood. And just lastly, I just want to speak to our partnership with the local housing authority. So we have, through the work that we do with Green Garden Bakery, as well as our work around working with families around housing stability, we've really been able to strengthen that relationship in the past few years. And we're looking forward to continuing to work with them with the launch of this new Green Garden Bakery kitchen as well. And I know we'll have questions at the end, but I just want to thank everyone again, and I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Liz, the education specialist in San Antonio.
Thank you, Alana, for sharing. My name is Elizabeth Arevalo. I am the education liaison in San Antonio, Texas, serving the former Wheatley Court community. And so today I'll be sharing some activities and outcomes with you that we have used in San Antonio to reduce educational barriers to success. And so our work in San Antonio began when our local housing authority, the San Antonio Housing Authority, received a grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and that was a Choice Neighborhoods Initiative grant. It was awarded to CLPHA to revitalize the Wheatley Courts community on the city's east side. And if you're not familiar with the Choice Neighborhood Initiative, it promotes a comprehensive approach to transforming distressed areas of concentrated poverty into mixed income neighborhoods. And there are 3 core objectives related to the Choice Neighborhoods Initiative: neighborhood, housing, and people. And so San Antonio Housing Authority was the lead for neighborhood to transform the neighborhood of poverty that we were working on into a mixed income community where residents have access to services, high quality schools, and improved access to jobs. Urban Strategies, Inc. was selected as the lead for the people objective, And our goal is to support positive outcomes for families who live in the neighborhood, particularly outcomes related to the residents' health, safety, employment, mobility, and education. And then lastly, the housing objective is being led by McCormick, Barron, Salazar, and they are to transform the distressed public and assisted housing into a mixed income housing that is physically and financially viable over the long term. So over the past 5 to 6 years, we have seen the neighborhood of Wheatley Courts completely change. Wheatley Courts public housing is no longer there. It was the oldest public housing development in San Antonio. It was built in 1941 and had 248 units. But fortunately, Urban Strategies was selected to work with the families that lived at Wheatley Courts. And so just to give you an idea of the families that we are working with, we do case manage 263 individuals, of which 151 of them are youth between the ages of 0 to 18. And just so you know, racially and ethnically, the Choice neighborhood is probably one of the most diverse in San Antonio, with significant numbers of African Americans and Hispanics present. But interestingly, this composition has been changing for several decades and only recently became majority Hispanic. And so that certainly reflects in the population that we serve. They are predominantly Hispanic females that we work with an average of 3 children in the household. Percent of the population has attained a high school diploma or more. However, 40% still have less than a high school diploma. And so to talk to you a little bit about the activities that we implemented, as Tyranda mentioned earlier in the webinar, our primary education results are children enter kindergarten ready to learn. Students are proficient in core academic subjects, and youth graduate from high school, college, or career ready. And so Urban Strategies measures educational success by tracking participation in positive youth activities, enrollment in early learning programs, high school graduation rates, and adults that are actively involved in their child's education. And we do believe that providing youth with foundational skills early in life prepares them to accelerate in furthering their education and can provide a family a pathway out of poverty. And so for kinder readiness, one of the things that we did was we provided access to parents to get online to participate in a screening called Act Early Texas. So that is only offered in the state of Texas, but any parent that has a child ages 0 to 5, they can get online and participate in a screening tool of the Ages and Stages questionnaire. So that is one local activity that we did to improve kinder readiness, is make sure that the parents are aware of their child's developmental milestones and see where they can assist them throughout that development. Also, under academic proficiency, we did partner with a local university to provide reading and math support for elementary age students. And then we also partner with a variety of agencies in the community that are able to provide out-of-school time programming that will engage youth. For our older students, for our teens and young adults, we want to make sure that they graduate high school, and so some of them had dropped out of high school, and so we don't lose them. We want to make sure that we connect them to programs where they can get a high school diploma and then move in to workforce development. One way that we worked with our local housing authority is they have a summer youth employment program, and so we would refer many of the youth that we case manage to the local housing authorities so they could work during the summer through a paid internship program. So there's just some of the activities that we have done locally, and those activities have truly proven some really good outcomes for us thus far. And so I'm going to go over a few of those. and then we'll dig a little bit deeper in the data. But a focus on education has always been a big component of our work to accelerate families out of poverty. And to this end, we work with youth and adults, providing them two-generation support to parents and their children. And so for the children, we intentionally connect them with strong education options while providing holistic family support. And along with the intentional services families, Urban Strategies does work with partners to provide developmentally appropriate learning for the youth. And so through the process of family engagement and support from our partners, we have celebrated the following milestones in educational outcomes for the families of Wheatley Court. So we have increased children enrolled in early learning programs to 61%. And starting in 2014, we were at 38%. We have increased parents reading to their children daily to 53%. In 2014, that was at 18%. We have increased youth engagement in positive activities to 74%. In 2014, that was 38%. And lastly, we have seen an increase in residents who obtain a high school diploma to 39%, which in 2014 was at 35%. And so now we're going to dig a little bit deeper in the trend data related to two of those educational outcomes. The first one is related to kinder readiness. And something that we did is we wanted to learn from the parents what barriers were preventing them from enrolling their children in early learning programs or settings. So starting in 2016, we really started to do this factor analysis to find out from parents what was preventing them. And so what we learned was many of the parents did not trust another adult to care for their child, or the high-quality child care centers were not near the neighborhoods, so they lacked transportation to get to that high-quality child care center. The cost was certainly a barrier, as well as fear of letting their baby go for the day with someone else. And so through that learning, we were able to develop partnerships with a variety of people and really focus on our preschool and pre-K population, work with parents to get their child enrolled in pre-K3 or pre-K4. And through those partnerships and that trust that we built with the parents, we were able to see success in children enrolling in center-based or formal home-based early learning programs. In addition to early childhood education, I do want to point out the work that we did on engaging our school-age youth in positive activities. And so over the past 5 years, we have been successful in engaging youth in positive activities. And the success is due to the collaboration with our education partners that combine learning with fun. And so youth have participated in a variety of programming, from after-school programs to academic enrichment, mentoring, and youth employment. And so our education partners have really taken time to build relationships with the families, and they've dedicated their resources to our case-managed youth. Two of the photos that you see on your screen, the one on the top of the children reading, is a photo from our summer inquiry camp that we do in partnership with our local university. And then the picture on the bottom is a photo from our GEMS program, which is our girls program that works on character development. They were selected as a nominee for 90-second Newbery film submission, and so that was them at the film event. And so we really value the partners when it comes to engaging our youth in positive activities. Now, all of this work was certainly not easy in the beginning. It did take time, and we did experience some challenges. So most importantly, the work that we've done in the community, we spent a lot of time the first couple of years of the 5-year grant establishing trust with the residents. Many of them had no idea who Urban Strategies was. Many of them did not want to accept case management services, and so it really took time for our case managers to build that rapport with the residents, and it also took a lot of energy to build that relationship. But the good thing is once that trust is established, we were able to encourage the residents to get involved in their community, to participate in neighborhood meetings and school activities as well. It's also critical to be aware of the school choice options for parents and make sure you inform them about all of their options for their child so they can make the best educated decision possible. As mentioned earlier, also it's very important that our strategies are aligned with our partners and that there is shared accountability to the families. Certainly as families continue to achieve their individual and family goals, we certainly do celebrate them as well. And so we're very fortunate that the federal funds from the Choice Neighborhood Initiative was able to catalyze the work that we did in San Antonio, and we have been able to maintain the momentum and sustain the work after the federal funding has ended. And so for the next 2 years, we will be receiving funding from our local United Way. We are a partner agency of their Successful Students Impact Council, and our programmatic focus is really going to be on our school-age youth, on improving academic proficiency with them. We're going to be doing that also working a little bit more closely with the neighborhood school and expanding our case management services to those families. Additionally, some of our staff have been receiving training from Excel Academy, which is part of a local nonprofit called the UP Partnership. And our staff is receiving training in developmental relationships and adaptive leadership. And so the goal is to use this model that will lead us to training and coaching our staff and parents that we serve as well in getting relationships right with their child. And so if any of you are interested in doing similar work that Urban Strategies has done and that what you've heard about today, I encourage you to go out and seek grants. Our work certainly was spearheaded in San Antonio through a federal initiative, but I honestly don't think we would have been this successful if our staff was not passionate about the families that we were serving, and we certainly value education as well. It's certainly important that you establish relationships with other partners and possibly have a local university or college work with the families you serve as well. So thank you. I will pass to Tyronda.
And Liz for sharing those case studies. We're going to open it up, or we're going to turn it back over to Abra, who will open it up for questions. But I just wanted to share with those who are listening that in every community that we serve, we try to have data sharing agreements with our school districts. We work very closely with the school districts to make sure that we can receive aggregated data on the youth who actually live in the communities that we work with, so that we can compare their outcomes to the school outcomes, to the district, to the state, so that we can actually be able to see over time the differences that our efforts are making in community. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Abra, for questions.
Yeah, so much to our three presenters from today. I see we have a couple questions in the chat box, so just encourage other folks to go ahead and type any questions that you might have for Tyronda, Liz, or Alana. But we'll start with what we have so far. So Tyronda, I believe this question was for you. We had a question about more information about the kind of technology that Urban Strategies, Inc. is using.
Yes, so we use a system called LEARN. It's established by ETO, Efforts to Outcomes, presented by Social Solutions. And LEARN stands for Learning for Effective Action in Revitalizing Neighborhoods. And it was customized for Urban Strategies to actually be able to track our data and monitor our families around outcomes by using our case management model. So that is the name of the system that we use. It's called LEARN, supported by Efforts to Outcome Social Solutions.
Great, thank you. And then there was a question, I believe this was for you, Liz, about the survey around early learning barriers. Would it be possible to share that with the person who asked that question? I can facilitate the email address.
Yes, absolutely. If you can share the email address, just know that it was a very informal group gathering, so we did not have a formal document where parents had to fill out, but I can certainly share the process a little further.
Great, thank you. And I see there's a question being typed right now, so we will wait for that and encourage other folks to submit questions as well. In the meantime, I think, oh, sorry, here it comes in. I'll hold my question. So we have a question about what methods you all use to get families enrolled into case management services.
So do you want to take a stab at that, Liz or Alana, or would you like for me to?
So I can certainly speak to it. So for San Antonio, the population that we needed to case manage was handed to us, but certainly those residents did not have to accept case management services. So we usually focus on a targeted neighborhood or a targeted housing complex that we work with, and we do canvassing of the neighborhood, literally go door to door, take case managers with us to speak to residents, let them know about urban strategies, and offer case management services.
Yeah, and I will just add that the way we provide case management services is through various community models. So we're able to work with families who live in either public housing communities, or when they relocate to deconcentrated areas, we're able to work with them in whatever community they may live in. Through our deconcentration model, we have a resident service delivery model specifically for those who are in the process of relocating and perhaps moving back to the sites that are being revitalized. And we also provide provide case management services in mixed income communities. So we have a variety of models that we use to provide case management services. They are voluntary, as Liz said, but the effectiveness of our programs, I think, is one attribute to why they decide to participate with us. But also a lot of times in communities that are being revitalized, many of them sign up before the transformation of the housing occurs.
In Minneapolis, either we'll have families come to us around maybe housing stability and recognizing that one of the barriers might be engaging their youth in after school programming, and then they get involved in a program such as Green Garden Bakery, or it might be vice versa, where youth in the neighborhood are getting involved first, and that's how we build relationships with a new family, and then their parents will come in to get additional case management services after that.
Right. I'd also just like to add, I think the question is from Amy. Amy, it's really hard. So although we're saying and sharing with you the methods that we use, I will tell you that it is hard to sometimes keep families engaged because we have a very strong accountability system where when you start working with our case managers, we have a pathway to accountability that we use to keep families honest about their commitments. And then the other thing is we make sure that we actually provide our services on the ground in communities. So in most places, our offices are located in the communities where the residents live. So it makes it easy for them to get to where we are. And then when they move, perhaps, we make sure that our work is done outside of the office, meeting them in different places in the geography or the footprint that we serve. Was that helpful, Amy? I want to make sure we responded to your question. You can type in the chat box.
So it looks like she's typing a response now,
Okay.
and there's also another question coming in.
Okay.
So while we're waiting for those to finish, one thing that I was hoping you all, okay, we see a question here from Milwaukee about if you have to pay for the data that you're sharing or receiving from the school districts.
No, we don't.
Okay, and I think Maria certainly can write a follow-up if she'd like. I think she's referring to sometimes partnerships. Yeah, there is sort of a financial arrangement in place generally to help pay for the data analysis. But Maria, if I'm not capturing that correctly, please correct me. And Amy said that the responses were helpful. I'm going to hold on asking my question just to make sure.
While we're waiting for Maria's question to come in, I'd like to just share that in one of our sites in Memphis this past school year, we were excited to announce that we had 13 students from our public housing community called Foot Homes to graduate from high school. And then when you heard me talk about systems change and the way that we work at a structural level, I'd like to just share that in San Francisco, the school board actually voted to allocate $1,000 per public housing student per school in their Hope, as they call them, Hope SF communities. And so that means, for example, if you had 20 students going to a neighborhood school, that school, through the school district, was able to receive $1,000 per kid to use towards some targeted intervention strategies to support their academic success. So we work at many different levels in community.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so Maria was saying that they in Milwaukee had, and she's with the Housing Authority, had to pay for comparison data. So I think we talk a lot about data sharing in this group, so it might actually be helpful if you just expand a little bit about how you got your data sharing agreements and transfer in place.
So a lot of times in the communities where we have choice neighborhood initiative sites, the local school district is the educational partner in the grant. And so signing on as the educational partner, one of their commitments is to work with us by signing a data sharing agreement that allows them to give us aggregated level data on the target residents in the communities that we serve. So more often than not, it's through an arrangement that comes through the relationships we have through that Choice Neighborhood Initiative grant. In communities where there are human development sites, they're a little bit harder to get, but oftentimes when we sit down and we talk about how we can create high alignment and high action partnerships together, we also talk about how a rising tide floats all boats and the ways that we can partner. It typically opens doors to conversations around data sharing agreements because the school wants to see their boat rise.
Great, thank you. So we just have a few moments left. So if folks have any last minute questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat box. I was hoping you all could just, each of you could just say sort of one thing or one action item that you would, you each touched on this a little bit in your presentations, but if folks wanted to go out in their communities and do something similar to this, or even perhaps work with urban strategies, what is the one thing you would say to them that they should maybe look at doing first? And I apologize to my presenters because I did not ask them to prep this ahead of time.
That's okay. If you're interested in working with or learning more about urban strategies, you'll find tons of information on our website about the communities that we serve and about our philosophy around service. So if you take a look at Urban Strategies Inc. Dot, I think it's .com in or .org in the our office is located in St. Louis, Missouri. There are other organizations called Urban Strategies Inc. So I want to make sure that you don't get us confused with organizations that are out in California and other area. I believe there may be 16 organizations with the name Urban Strategies. So take a look at our website. We've shared my email address. Feel free to reach out. And if you have specific questions for the other two presenters, I can certainly put you in contact with them. And so I guess my one thing would be, first of all, to get to know the community and the residents, listen to their voices to really figure out what it is that they say they need in order to thrive. Liz, Alana, did you have one thing?
To piggyback on that as well, and I'd say that we've definitely found the most success by being when we're really the most embedded into the community and really listening to residents' needs. And I think going back to thinking more about the slide that Tyronda spoke about with the iceberg, oftentimes in this work, we're really reactive to the events or the crisis that might be happening with families, and really to make really great change in systems work, we have to really go below the surface. So I think, working with your team and taking that slide back and having some bigger conversations when you're connecting with new partners around that would be great.
And the only other thing that I would add is it's about passion and access. If you have the passion to serve others and advocate for others, then it should be great. And then also access, like for our case managers, we make sure that the residents know how to get in contact with us. They know where our office is located. We're seen in the community frequently. We shop and dine in the neighborhood as well. So ultimately, it's about passion and access.
Great. Well, we are right up on time. So again, thank you so much to our presenters, Tyronda, Liz, Alana. Really some exciting work happening nationally, but also specifically in Minneapolis and San Antonio. So as I mentioned, today's webinar was recorded. So probably by Thursday, I'll have the link up on www.housingiz.org, which is our online clearinghouse. And I will send an email out to the working group listserv reminding you all that that is available. You can also view past webinars there as well. So Kathleen, we will make sure to get out that survey information to you. And if anyone finds that they have questions that they think of later today or in the coming weeks, please feel free to reach out, and I'd be happy to try to get answers for you, or as it makes sense, put you in touch with the presenters. So thank you so much, and we look forward to the next webinar. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.